Hello and welcome to Solutions with Lane. If you're new here, I'm Lane, a hypnotist here to teach you about manifestation as awareness and not through effort. If you want, join the membership. I'm going to start doing live streams. I have exclusive content. Just click the join button down below. You can also join my group coaching that I'm offering now. It's called the Conscious Integration Circle. We do a little bit of hypnosis, coaching, and support work on top of integration parts therapy, which helps you take two parts of yourself, put them together so then you can rise together. Okay. And one-on-one coaching services, everything will be linked down below. But let's dive into this video. So in the past few videos, which if you notice, I'm wearing the same shirt as the other ones. We're having a content day, vibing out. Love talking about this stuff. But anyways, in the past couple of videos, I've been talking a lot about the ego and the difference between the ego and awareness. So I want to make an exclusive video just about the ego and what Eckhart Tolle talks about as the pain body and what those two things are and how it's going to help you finally disidentify from them and be home as awareness, right? So the ego's tricky. It doesn't mean to be. It's just, that's what it is. And the ego has, I call them characters, but Eckhart Tolle calls them pain bodies. And he says that they are dormant until they're not, pretty much, till they get triggered. And the ego holds all of these things within it. The ego is coming from usually childhood trauma, usually from, those ages of 0 to 7, of the programming that our parents gave us, or society and friends and family, and all of those conditions, all of that hurt, the pain, the rejection, all of those perceptions that we had as a child creates the pain body, creates the ego. And then that's how we filter out our reality. So you'll notice in the beginning of a relationship, I'm going to use this as an example. We can also do money. I'll do that after. But in the beginning of a relationship, you're fine, nothing's going on, and then you meet this person and you're like, ooh, I really like them, they're kind of cool, let me go on a couple dates with them, you get to know them, and then all of a sudden, you get attached. Then all of a sudden, your mind goes from peace and calm, having fun, this is great, I'm getting to know somebody, I really like this person too. Why haven't they texted me? That's not normal. Are they ghosting me? Oh man, I don't feel good about this anymore. How come they don't prioritize me? And you start doubting, right? Doubting this person and their intentions. Oh, maybe they're just another fuckboy. Right? And assigning meaning, correct? Out of nowhere. This person was the fucking bee's knees. They were cool. They were dope. You wanted to spend all your time with them, really get to know them. You were enjoying the conversation, then all of a sudden things went sideways. That's because that dormant pain body was triggered by that attachment. And that pain body, probably in its past, now everyone's pain bodies are different. I'm just giving examples here. Like my pain body, as soon as I'd get attached, I had the fear of abandonment. So either I'd bounce, be like, nah, not feeling this. Or I would get anxious and latch on. What do you mean you're not texting me? But I really like you, and try to be people pleasing and things like that, because I was scared this person was going to leave me, hurt me, because I was now attached. I attached my identity to this person. I attached my feelings. Like when I wake up in the morning, I get a text from you. I was happy with that. Or at night when we could have a conversation, or when we were going on dates, I felt really good. So I attached meaning that I feel good when I'm around you. And now I want to continue to feel good. So you need to continue to be around me. And the pain body started creating all of these different scenarios to where the absence of you triggered that abandonment within me. Even if it wasn't a long amount of absence, any would do, right? And our pain bodies do that. Now, I didn't have a bad childhood. I mean, it was all right. Like, my dad is my world. He's everything, but he worked a lot. He's in the real estate industry, and he was the best in the business at the time. Like, he was winning awards. He was getting free trips to Hawaii for selling as much as he was, and writing as many loans. Like, that dude was living life back when we were kids, and we were living life too. We were constantly going on trips. He was constantly taking us to Disney World. Like, we lived a good life. But that absence of him created I'm sure that this is where it's coming from. The absence, because he was working all the time and coming home late, created a fear of abandonment. And then obviously there's some stories with my mom. She was like more, we'll say, emotionally absent. It wasn't that, oh, honey, hug me, I love you. It was more like, good job. Okay, yeah, cool. She was very distant. So it created different forms of abandonment and not feeling like a priority or understood and heard, and it created the pain bodies. Now, I have multiple. I'm just giving examples. I'm just being honest with you guys that this is how, some of my cycles had happened. So then you can kind of reflect on your own life and see, I get it. I get where the ego was formed. I understand it. I'm not against it. I'm not trying to push it away. I'm not trying to get rid of it and have the ego die, because that's something as well in the community. We got to kill off the ego. The old man's got to die. And no, you can integrate it. And that's what I do. That's why I talked about integration parts therapy. And it's bringing those parts of yourself together and rising together. You don't have to leave it behind, right? Because it's just a scared version of you. You can bring it, unconditional love, oneness. It exists within you anyways, so why not bring it with you? Why make it die? I mean, it dissolves as it rises with you into love, happiness, but it dissolves into a different frequency. It doesn't dissolve and just get pushed away until it's undormant again. Does that make sense? So anyways, I'll get back on track here. So that's how my pain bodies were formed. And I want you to reflect on how you think yours were formed, or just notice different patterns of when the pain body is triggered, when the ego is triggered, and then how you start filtering out different things. At first, again, that relationship was harmonious. It was peaceful. It was fun. It was exciting, something new. You wanted to get to learn about this person, and you felt really good at being around them. And then that attachment kicked in, and your perception of them changed. They're becoming distant. How come they don't text me all the time anymore? They haven't asked me out on a date in the past week. We haven't hung out in the past weekend. They bailed on plans. They didn't seem as cuddly as they were before. And your mind starts coming up with all these excuses and projecting onto that person. And then obviously that's when they ghost. That's when they're, you label them an avoidant. So that's when they're avoiding. Like, all of these different things starts to happen. So notice how you went from seeing things kind of as awareness when those pain bodies were dormant, to seeing them completely differently, seeing the situation completely differently, having different thoughts and emotions come up about this and projecting it onto that person. You're doing this, so I'm feeling like this now. You're not texting me, so I'm feeling insecure. You see how attached to outcome we are, how attached to reality we are? And what I'm teaching here on this channel is to go beyond that, to where there are no attachments. There's no reason to be reactive or to take things personally, or to project your traumas, your pain body, or your ego onto somebody else. Once you go home as awareness, you're in the state of neutrality. You could give two shits what that person does. Then that's obviously when they will reflect back something different, because you're no longer identifying with it, taking it personally, being reactive. Things can shift. So I said I'd give an example of money. Again, my personal life. I grew up where my dad had a lot of money. We did good. And then as I got older, I was on my own, and some health things happened. At first I had a good job. I was up for a promotion as management. For a year after being at this job, I was like 19. Some health things happened, and it completely shifted my state, the view of myself, the way that I was able to provide for myself, shifted everything for many, many, many years. And as soon as I started to make a little bit of money, it was always right out the door, because I had that shift in perspective, and not in a good way. I had a lot of limitations about myself, of what I was able to do and not do, and how much I was able to make, and da-da-da. So with that being said, I'd make money. I had different jobs. I'd make money, but then something would go wrong at the house. I had to buy, a new hot water tank, or I don't know, just something would happen to where no matter how much money I was making, if I even had a little bit of a savings, something came up to where I had no money once again. because that was the story that my pain body had started to project out. I started getting insecure about there's not enough money, and I have to keep this money in my savings, and I don't want to spend it, even if that means I go without, because I have to have this money in my savings. If something goes wrong, I was always worried about something going wrong because I had an experience of something going wrong and having no money based on my health stuff, which I don't want to get into. But so I always had that story of I had it all, everything was all figured out. I got, a diagnosis. I got really sick, couldn't work, used up all my savings, had to move back in with my parents, lost my job, lost everything, and that rocked my state. Because what was the point of having a savings? What was the point of working? What was the point of achieving all of those things if I could lose it just like that? And I always felt like I was going to lose something. So now I needed to save. I needed to squirrel things away because, what happens if it happens again? What happens if I can't work again or something happens? What happens if I can't afford this? And I was in that mindset, a very scarcity mindset. So I could be making money. And somehow, some way, yes, I could build up my savings, but then I'd have to spend it shortly after. Or I would go without because I was so focused on I need this savings just in case something happens, and then obviously something would happen. That pain body would trigger that insecurity within me. I was never safe with money because it had shown me I'm not safe. Right? Because I was doing all the right things. I got sick, and then obviously I wasn't safe anymore. Financially, physically, emotionally, mentally, I wasn't safe. So moving forward, though, you'll notice that, at first, I had a really good conception around money, right? My dad raised me. Both my parents raised me, but my dad raised me around money. We never went without. We were constantly doing, going on trips and having a good time. And then, I got my first job. I was doing really well. Had my own place at 19, had my own car at 19. I had a very good life. And then all of a sudden, something was triggered within me. I was super stressed. I was super negative at that time because of my stress and not getting a lot of sleep because I was busting ass. I was making a lot of money, providing for myself, and just had a lot going on in my life at that time that obviously then I got sick because dis-ease, right? What's a disease? Disease. I was in a state of disease. And then obviously got sick, lost it all. And I had this whole mindset, this pain body emerged within me of, well, what the fuck's the point? Now I need to save more because what if something else happens? I wasn't expecting this sickness to happen. And it just created a whole thing. But I was good until I wasn't good, until something was triggered within me to say I'm not good. And then I struggled with that pain body for a long time afterwards. Because I'd always fall back into the old story of we need to save, scarcity, yada, yada. So that's the example I can give with money. It's the example I can give with relationships and where the stuff is coming from. The ego is tricky and it always tries to pull you back in. That's the next part I want to get into. So you'll notice, you've been practicing awareness. You've been present. Then all of a sudden, thoughts come up out of nowhere. And at first you're just observing until one just sucks you in and it makes you feel like shit. Maybe you're making a sandwich and then all of a sudden you have a thought about your specific person. Are they with somebody else? Is that why I haven't heard from them? Do they got a roster? What are they doing? And you buy into that thought and you start thinking, well, it kind of would make sense if they do have a roster because they haven't been around. Clearly, they must be talking to someone else if they're not talking to me. And your mind just goes on this whole rabbit hole when really, you were just making a sandwich. But the ego triggered a thought. You bought into that thought because that thought seems a lot more real than awareness, just being present. And you got pulled right back in. Happened with money. I've had this happen with money before. You'll be sitting on the couch watching a movie or a TV show or something, or scrolling, and then all of a sudden you have a thought. Or maybe you see something that triggers this thought of, oh shit, my electric bill's due and I don't have the money on my account. I completely forgot about it. Fuck, what am I going to do? I don't get paid until, I don't know, next week. It's random things like that can get triggered. And then the ego pulls you in. Then you're worrying, panicking. Well, maybe I can ask my dad for money. Maybe my friend, some money. I don't want the lights to go out. And I always pay my bills on time. And I can't believe I fucked this one up. And how did I forget about it? I thought it was on auto pay, but it's not. And you just start spiraling, right? That's how tricky the ego is. It just pulls you in randomly. You'll be minding your own business, being present, enjoying yourself. Boom. All of a sudden, you're in a trap. So it's your job as awareness to notice when you're falling back into the trap of the ego, the pain body, whatever's getting kicked up and stirred up. If you're not in the state of peace, of love, of connection, of bliss, and you find yourself telling different stories, you find yourself feeling shitty, you know that you've been identifying with the ego, that pain body was triggered. If you were fine all of a sudden, then it shifts. That's your first clue. Okay? So, I don't want to make this video too long, like I say in every video, but now you understand what the ego is and how it filters out our reality and what the pain body is, how it's dormant. All of a sudden, you're fine. You meet somebody or you're making a decent amount of money. Then it gets triggered and you're like, whoa, hold up. What the fuck is going on? Why am I thinking like this? Why am I seeing this person like this? Everything was just fine. What happened? Why am I feeling like this? That's the pain body. It was dormant. It was triggered. And now here it is saying hello. Your job is to be aware of it, though. As awareness, all things can exist within it. Those pain bodies, the ego, all of it's allowed to be there. One is no better than the other. They just know the ego is formed off of suffering, and so is the pain body. Right? We're going beyond suffering. We're going back home as awareness, true love, bliss, happiness, joy, abundance, etc. So your job is to be aware of when you fall back into the trap, when that pain body surfaces. And you just do this by observing your thoughts, observing your reactions to things. And by observing, you see it. Oh, I got sucked in for a minute. I'm going to go back to the present moment. I'm going to focus on my breath, my body, my surroundings, and get myself present again and go back home to awareness. Because I stepped out. I stepped outside. I went on a little bit of adventure, and I'm going back home now. And walk yourself right back through that door. It's that simple, guys. May not be easy at times. Because again, that ego is a little tricky. Tries to pull you in. It wants to stay alive. The pain bodies want to stay alive. So they like when you sit and hang out with them. And they're very convincing. But, I mean, hey, they're liars. It's not your true self. It's your mind self. Okay, so thank you for being here. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Watch out for those pain bodies. Watch out for those reactions. Watch out for those thoughts that try to pull you in. You're not any of them. Those are all lies. You as awareness is the only truth. And awareness would never lie to you. Awareness feels good. Awareness feels peaceful. Your thoughts and within awareness are peaceful. And there's no suffering there. Okay? It's heaven on earth here as awareness. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Remember, as awareness, you got this.